All right, everybody. Excuse me, didn't time that very well. This is document C here, so go ahead and open up the document C. Looks like what you see on the screen, looks like this right here, so get your packet open to document C. This comes from Frederick Haskin, the American Government, Washington, D.C., 1923. As we've done in the last two documents, go ahead and tell me, is that a primary or a secondary? Just write primary or secondary up at the top, and primary or secondary source up there. Okay, I'm going to read through this with you guys, and then I'm going to go back the second time and talk about a couple of words and that maybe you need defining or help with, and add a couple of points that will help you out with this. Excuse me. The Prohibition Unit of the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which is charged with enforcing prohibition, is an organization headed by a commissioner established in Washington, with state and regional directors, state agents, and flying squadrons, those are quick strike enforcement units, stationed throughout the country. This force numbers from 3,000 to 3,500 people. The stories of prohibition enforcement are more absorbing, interesting than detective tales. One still, a still is a distillery where they make alcohol. One still operated successfully for months in a house adjacent or next to a police station. The moonshiners had cut through the wall so that the smoke and fumes from the distillery, escaped up the chimney of the station house. So they were sharing space basically with a police station. Kind of crazy. Smuggling from Mexico and Canada has been successful on a large scale because it is an utter impossibility to patrol the 1,000 miles of border. Bootleggers maintain large fleets of trucks and automobiles running on regular schedules between Mexican and Canadian points and cities such as St. Louis, Kansas City, and Denver. On the Atlantic coast, the smugglers are so numerous and so active that there is at all times a rum fleet standing off or anchored outside the 3-mile limit near New York and New Jersey. The fleet consists of vessels of all kinds and sizes that bring their cargoes from the Bermudas or the West Indies or even from across the Atlantic. As long as they remain outside the 3-mile limit, this government cannot interfere with them, and they are able to make their deliveries to bootleggers that slip out. They can make their deliveries to bootleggers that slip out to them under cover of darkness in the motor speed boats. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go through and just talk about a couple of things here, a couple of points when you answer your questions here. Once again, a bootlegger, remember, is somebody that is transporting alcohol illegally. These guys here are making pictures of guys making alcohol. You can see in the woods here, probably pretty well hidden. You can see it's kind of like that area covered up by trees and stuff like that. So they're making it illegally. Those guys were called moonshiners, but when they transported it, they were called bootleggers. Interesting term over here when you get into bootleggers here, and then they talk about rum runners. Rum runners are the same thing as bootleggers, only they're the ones that are doing it by sea. Okay, so they talk about rum runners in there as well. So basically, guys, we're talking about prohibition enforcement, like the police trying to stop prohibition. One piece of background information here that I want you guys to see that's really, really interesting is in 1 year, the first year of prohibition, the government gave about $5 million to enforce prohibition. So that means like paying for police salaries, to giving them the trucks, the equipment they need to enforce prohibition, to stop alcohol running, to stop alcohol production, to stop alcohol consumption, and so on. Now look at this line right below it. In 1 year, in New York City alone, so just New York City, almost $400 million was spent on booze. So before Prohibition, this is when this stat comes in, $400 million was spent on alcohol in one city in 1 year. So then in the first year of Prohibition for the whole country, they only gave $5 million to try to stop it. So look at those numbers and see, there's a disconnect there. That means that there's something inconsistent. A lot of money spent on alcohol, big industry, not very much money spent to stop it. So think about that. Okay, let's go to the questions now. How many federal prohibition agents were there when this document was written in 1923? Well, you're going to find that answer in this first paragraph, okay? So go ahead and write your answer in here. How many Prohibition agents were there when this was written in 1923? Go. All right, you should have the answer for number 1. Now we're on to number 2. What is the main idea of paragraph 2? This is this paragraph here. All right, so when you read that paragraph, reread it here, we read it together. We're talking about a still or a place where they made alcohol right next to a police station. So, and then the moonshiners cutting through the wall to use their chimney basically to get their fumes and all that out. So, what does that tell you about the local police? Are they paying attention? Maybe were they working with the moonshiners? What would that mean if they were working with them? So how would they work together? Would it be legal? Would it be illegal? So think about that. Okay. Answer question number 2. What's the main idea of this paragraph? Go. Question number 3. During Prohibition days, what was the significance of the 3-mile limit? You're going to find that answer right about here in the final paragraph. So reread that. What does the 3-mile limit mean? Answer that, please. Question number 4. What evidence is there that the smuggling of alcohol into the United States was large in scale? So you're going to find that in you're going to find that in this paragraph here and in here. It talks about being large scale right there. Give me a couple of examples. Large scale means it was big. So they're running alcohol from Mexico, from Canada. What gives the impression here in this paragraph that it was large in scale? Last question for this document. How does document C help answer the question, Prohibition, why did America change its mind? Well, back to this piece of information here. Does it seem like the U.S. government was very serious about stopping Prohibition when they only give $5 million to try to stop, or I'm sorry, to enacting Prohibition, stopping alcohol, basically, is what I meant to say. Does it seem like the government's serious about it? It's a very huge industry, $400 million in one city in a year, and they only give, for the whole country, $5 million to the people they're trying to enforce Prohibition. So does it seem like we're real serious about it as a country back then? Answer that question here. If we're not serious about it, what's the point of doing it? Does it seem like that's tax dollars well spent? I don't know. Tell me your opinion. Does that seem like, how does this help answer the question, Prohibition, why did America change its mind? All right, answer that question. Good job for document C. Thank you.